We have called you to talk about the negligence of the NDC and President John Mahama, His Excellency, that has led to the loss of lives of some 11 or more people at the AngloGold Ashanti mines in Obuasi and Newmont in a related violence. This, in our view, is a very important matter that some of you in the media have talked about, but we think that it requires the attention of all of us as a people to nip this in the bud. Those souls that died or perished on that day needn't be dead as we speak. They had a chance to be alive, except that the NDC and the leadership of their party, His Excellency John Mahama, were negligent. Before I go on, let me stop here and extend the sincere condolences of our party, all of our membership, our leadership, to the families and friends of these Ghanaians who happen to be members of the National Democratic Congress who perished on Sunday, the 19th of January. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDC resorted to violence immediately following the peaceful elections on December 7th, which election they won, the presidential and the legislative election they won, and the new Patriotic Party, led by our flag bearer, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, considered defeat appropriately and congratulated then President-elect John Mahama, now President of the Republic, and the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration cooperated with them duly to supervise a very historic transition on the 7th of January 2025. Notwithstanding the NPP's goodwill and support for the NDC leadership and the president-elect at the time, they looked on while their members took the laws into their hands to attack, terrorize, and violate Ghanaians. The NDC and its grassroots had ignored all calls to stop the violence. Instead, the violence intensified. The NDC party was acting as though it was a coup d'etat that brought them to power. They abused and attacked electoral commission officers and personnel. They attacked and abused police officers and police installations. They attacked government institutions. And recently, as we are talking about today, in Obuasi, when the incorrigible thugs of the NDC thought that they could invade a private company, which sadly resulted in this bloodshed that we're talking about. All of these violent incursions by the NDC thugs and grassroots members received the tacit support of the NDC leadership and President John Mahama. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, you remember many of these attacks. Many of these attacks. The plot was to show you some of these videos, but I'm very much aware that you have them. You have copies. We watched them on your screens. Some of them you reported online. We watched them. So you are aware of these videos that I'm talking about. But as time goes on, if you can show them to you, we'll key them up for you to see. But many of these violent instances you are aware of. I'll just take a minute to outline a few. If we get a video, you watch them. But it started with attacks on the EC offices, destruction of pink sheets and related electoral materials and evidence in constituencies the NDC knows they've lost. And police installations also came under attack, and you recall the infamous attack at the Tema Central police station, with the pressure on police to declare the NDC winners of that seat. At the end of the day, you have seen where the result has gone, but the NDC at the time, with their leadership, tacitly encouraging its people to go and rampage these state institutions and security installations. And the strange thing was that the police could not do anything under the pressure and the inducement of the NDC leadership for their thugs to attack these security posts. The NDC thugs attacked the following institutions after President Mahama took office. Now, outside of the ones that it did following the elections, especially in the parliamentary elections in about some 12 or so constituencies which they know they lost, but then wanted to insist the result to be declared for them, after His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana, took office, they carried on, and his administration watched and did nothing. I want to tell you about the attack in the New Jubbing Municipal Assembly. This happened in broad daylight. The government, then His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, did nothing. The thugs from the NDC, again, they stormed Tor, the Tema Oil Refinery. They sacked all the employees and locked up the premises. This happened in broad daylight, and the NDC and President John Dramani Mahama did nothing. The NDC thugs again attacked Cocoa Board offices. This happened in broad daylight, and the NDC and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama did nothing. The NDC thugs again attacked the Ministry of Energy, threatening the workers there, threatening the lady who was manning the reception that if she would not cooperate with them, they will sack her from the place. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, did nothing. His party did nothing. The NDC thugs again burned down police installations in Ejra and Atebubu. The NDC, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, was aware, they knew about it, they did nothing. Again, the NDC thugs attacked the Eastern Regional Offices of the National Health Insurance Authority, the National Service Secretariat, the School Feeding Secretariat, the TVET, and the National Lottery Authorities. These were happening in broad daylight, yet the NDC and President John Dramani Mahama did nothing. Now, I wanted you to follow these instances and see where it culminates to a point where the people think, the NDC thugs think that they could not be stopped, they could not be touched, and that they are invincible, that they can do whatever they want. And their government, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and their party, led by Chairman Asedu Nketia, and the General Secretary, Mr. Fiavi Fifi Koite, would do nothing. And they carried on. There have been many instances of violent conduct by the NDC members with full knowledge, as I indicated earlier, of the party leadership and the president-elect at the time and now President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. They knew what their party members were doing, but they edged them on with their silence. They edged them on. And as we all know, they say silence is consent. And in this particular instance, they needn't say anything. They were just watching, and their members knew what message they were sending. Carry on, and indeed, they carried on with the violence. I am aware of, and probably you too are aware of, some letters they issued belatedly. But between you and I, we know those letters were just for the optics. They didn't issue them in good faith for their members to stop the violence. It was just for you and I to think that they were doing something. It was skirmishes, it was not honest, it was not intended to stop them. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDC must take responsibility for this gruesome murder of the 11 or so people that happened in Obuasi. And incidentally, the people that were killed, very painfully, happened to be members of the National Democratic Congress. The NDC in this instance failed to protect and save the lives of these Ghanaians who are members of their party on the occasion when they died. They failed to protect and save them because they failed to lead, they failed to show leadership, they failed to tell them the truth, they failed to caution them that in this country there are laws. You can't just up and go anywhere just because your party has won an election and therefore terrorize and take over private setups as though they were yours. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, the implication of this conduct by the NDC people, because we are all mourning, which is why I'm wearing black today, we will not go into it, but they have that particular conduct, the one that happened at the AGA premises, has real implication for foreign direct investment in our country. And that is something the NDC ought to know. But they preferred to allow their politics to go ahead of the national interest. And so they failed to caution and advise their members as the lawlessness possessed their political party. It spilled over, and in Obuasi on the 19th, we saw the rather regrettable, the rather avoidable, and the painful exit of those members of their party. So in essence, it is the failure of the NDC leadership, including His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, in their legitimate duty of cautioning and advising their people to desist from the lawlessness that has led to the painful loss of lives of these young people. The silence of President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC indeed urged their thugs on in the rampage that we see, which unfortunately culminated in the loss of lives that we're talking about. They felt invincible, as I said earlier, untouchable and unstoppable. The bloodshed in Obuasi could have been avoided had the NDC cautioned their members against the violent rampage after the December 7th election, which they won. The grassroots, ladies and gentlemen, of every political party, and I want to make this point very clear, the grassroots of every political party, for that matter, any member of a political party, will take directives from the leadership of the party, no matter what the situation. So if it were the case that the NDC called on their members to desist from the violence, honestly, they would have done it. But because they failed to do that, their members took the cue that the silence of their leaders meant that they carry on. They carry on, and which is the reason why we are where we are, and sadly, having to talk about the loss of lives in this case. The NDC is run around talking about some loss of lives, which is painful in elections. We want to let them know that the loss of lives, whether they are their members or not, they are Ghanaians, and this is regrettable, and this ought to be avoided. And His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will have to take responsibility for this squarely and fairly. It is because it is their inactions that led to their death on the 19th of January. We would like, ladies and gentlemen, to call on the Ghana Police to conduct its investigations and ensure justice is served expeditiously. We also want to warn the police not to engage in any backroom deals with the John Mahama administration to shield anyone in this matter. We need to emphasize that point, because from every evidence we have discussed with you here, the responsibility for this unfortunate passing or slaughter of our fellow Ghanaians who are members of the NDC in Obuasi on the 19th of January 2025 is as a result of the negligence of the NDC and the President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And so, they shouldn't engage in any backroom deals to kind of discolor the investigation, make it appear as though that it was an unfortunate thing, something that has happened. We don't want the police to engage in any backroom dealings with the government to cover up for anyone, so that we don't see justice in this matter. It shouldn't be the case that they are their members, so they will cover this up. We are interested in this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, we are interested in justice for these NDC members, and we hope His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic of Ghana, will not shield or attempt in any way, shape, or form to clear anyone who is culpable in the supervision of the slaughter of these Ghanaians who are members of their party. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. For more news, please visit our website, graphic.com.gh, or follow us on Facebook at Daily Graphic and on YouTube and Twitter at GraphicGH.
Subscribe now.